Good morning, church. I'm here to give a testimony about my life. Yes, my life has been, I think it's been such a story that has different seasons. And in each season, God has shown himself to be faithful to me. So what I should actually be saying are testimonies, not testimony. But I'm just going to pick one or two that has really placed me on the journey I am at the moment with God. So my name is Juliet Ukaigwe. And I'm married with 3 sons. So I was born a Catholic. I am born a Catholic. Traditional Catholic family. And I wouldn't say I had any close relationship with God when I was growing up. But I remember when I was 14 years old, I was in high school then. I encountered, that was my first encounter with Christ. I gave my life to Christ at that point, a very young age. But because of the kind of family I came from, my circumstances and everything, that fire didn't carry on. I lost it and I backslid. And then I went to university where, I actually have an anchor verse that I think describes my life. Each time I think of what God has done for me, that is actually what comes to my mind. And it is from Jeremiah chapter 1, from verse 5. And it says, I knew you. I'm reading from the easy version. I knew you even before I made your body inside your mother's womb or body. I chose you before you were born. I decided that you must be a prophet to all the countries in the world, he said. So this is God's word to Jeremiah. While I might not be a prophet, but I know that even before I came out, that he had already predestined me to what he wanted me to do or to be. And to that effect, that's even not just for me, but for every one of us. He places people and he makes a way for you to take that path that he's already planned for you. And if you miss that path, it comes like in seasons and in cycles. And in each season, he makes a way for you. And you can either miss it, you can choose that path, or you can miss it. And then you have to wait for another cycle for you to get that chance again and that opportunity. That's what I've realized in my life. So I missed the first chance when I was 14. I knew him quite all right, but I didn't carry on. And I missed that chance. So the next chance for me then came when I'd already finished uni. And I was, the next thing now was for me to start thinking of who's going to be my life partner, who am I getting married to. And I had a lot of suitors actually coming at that point. So, but what we see, what we think is not what God thinks. And what he wants for us is different from what we want as human beings. So, of course, as a young girl, I wanted flashy, I wanted tall, I wanted handsome, I wanted, all the nice things that you usually, want. But one thing I knew was that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make that choice on my own. And so that was an opportunity now for God to call me closer to him. So I now decided to, I started fellowshipping, I started getting closer to him, I started praying, particularly concerning a life partner. And while I was doing that, I started getting closer to him and everything. And that was when I met, I already knew my husband. And he had actually come like a few years before to tell me that he's interested in marrying me, but of course I wasn't ready for, I would say, then. And I didn't actually feel he was the right person for me. So when I started praying and asking God, who is actually the right person for me? You know, God can speak to us through different people, through his word, through those around you and all that. And he actually spoke to me through my sisters and friends, and they said, look, we saw you in a dream while you were wedded to Chidozie. And I said, well, I'm his daughter as well, aren't I? So he should speak to me because I'm not going to go with what you're saying. I want him to speak to me. And I actually became angry why he would be going to speak to all these people and he wasn't speaking to me. And I was actually seeking him diligent. Well, I don't know whether I'm diligent or not then, but I was seeking him with my whole heart and asking him, who is the right person for me? And then I didn't actually hear a loud voice in my ears or see a vision to say, right, this is your husband. But I didn't actually do that. So what happened was, we went to the same fellowship then, and one of those days, he came earlier, and I came and I sat in the back. And then, when it was during praise and worship, praise and worship had gone on, and there was just a few announcements going on. And then I looked up. It was like, okay. And then I saw someone tall in front of me, and I said, oh, that looks like Chidozie. But I didn't realize he was this tall. You know, it was like, at that point, I was like, I had scales fall off my eyes. Because when did he become broad-shouldered? Oh, and he's actually, wow. That was it for me. That was the moment I knew. And in my heart, I knew that God had spoken to me and said, this is him. And at that point, he became all that I was looking for, which he wasn't. And I knew it was God that did it, because he wasn't all those things to me at the beginning. So that was one testimony. And of course, we went ahead and we got married and we got wedded. But then I realized over the years that God wanted me to marry him for a reason. And we got married in 2000. And by the 4th year, we still didn't have any children. And we waited for 7 years before we had our first child. And that was when I knew that this is the man that God wanted me to marry. That was when I knew that he actually loved me. That was when I knew that he had already preordained him to be my husband. That was when I knew that he brought him to my life for a reason. Because even though I knew him and I was following him, but he was a much stronger Christian than I was. And marrying him, he brought me closer to God. He stoked my fire up because he was more passionate about God than I was at that time. So in those years of trials and everything, he never, he wouldn't listen to what people were saying concerning me. He was always by my side. I always knew that he was there. And the good thing was that he held on to God. And because of his trust in God, it also boosted my own trust in him. And together, both of us held on to God. And even when people were telling us to go here, to go there, to places that were questionable, he stood his ground and said, no, even if we don't have children, that we will still serve God. And we rode on that faith. Because if it were me, believe me, I would have fallen aside. Because my faith wasn't as strong as his then. But I knew that God brought him to my life for a reason, And so we rode on that faith and we carried on waiting. And I would always tell people, I'm a waiting mother. And I would go and buy baby stuff. I would go and buy, baby clothes in a box and say, right, this is my baby's stuff. And I would give offerings for my baby and call him by name, So with that faith, we had our first child when I didn't even realize I was pregnant then. Against the doctor's reports, because we actually sought medical help, and they said, sorry, you can't conceive, and your husband, there's no way, if not for IVF. And of course, we didn't have the money for IVF then, and the waiting list was like 3-4 years. So we said, right, okay, we're on honeymoon, let's carry on then. That's fine. So when I became pregnant, it was a shock. I didn't realize that what happened, and that was when I knew that God will never, ever leave you. What he says he will do, because I always knew that he will always come through for me, no matter how long it takes. No matter how long it takes. So what I'm trying to do this morning is to give him back that glory. Give it back to him. And to encourage those of us here, those of us here who are maybe single or perhaps still searching for life partners. This isn't something you do in the flesh. You have to actually trust him and realize that that person that he has set aside for you you might not like that person to start with, because you're looking through your eyes, you're not seeing what God is seeing. So when you pray, that is when God will open your eyes and your heart to the right person that is meant for you. And don't be in a rush. Don't rush in, because it's a lifelong commitment, and there are many things that are going to come along the way. And if you're with the wrong person, you're not going to make it. If you're with the wrong person, that's when you get divorced. That's when, you have frictions and all. It's not that we don't have friction, but we all know how we resolve things. So I just want to thank God and praise his name and give him all the glory and say, I do appreciate all he's done for me over the years, and he's done a lot more for me. This is just one of those, one of the ones that stands out for me. So I just want to thank him. I just want to bless his name for finding me and for predestining me and for making me who I am. Thank you.